Okay, in this section, I would like to show you how we can access an EC2 instance, especially a Linux EC2 instance from a Windows machine. Go ahead and open your AWS console and select one of the EC2 instances that you've created before, or you can create a new EC2 instance right now. So I'm going to AWS console. If you remember, we built some EC2 instances before. We can basically create a new one, or if we have anything, we can just start using this one. So I'm going to take a look at my instances, and I have one web server 01 that is currently in stopped session. I'm going to right click on this one and just go to the instance state and start this EC2 instance. And here I can see the key name. It says ITrepo Linux key. So in order to be able to access to this server, this is a Linux machine, we need to SSH to this box. We need to have this key, and I have this key actually. If I minimize my web browser, this is my key that I've copied to this Windows machine in order to be able to access it. So this is good. We have the key right now. This is the private key actually. I'm going to open another tab and search for download PuTTY, and the first site is putty.org. Use this one. This is a SSH client for a Windows machine. And you can see as you can download PuTTY. Just select here, and there's a 32-bit and 64-bit. I'm going to select the 64-bit one MSI file. There is an installer with a bunch of other tools, which is pretty useful. And I'm going to select run here. Basically, this is a bunch of tools that we can start using them for accessing Linux machines, creating certificates, and they are really good tools. And the installation is pretty fast. Just next, finish. So after this is done, we can go to our search in the Windows start menu, and we can just type PuTTY, and this is the PuTTY desktop app. So select this one. It's very simple. So in a Linux machine or in a Mac, we have the terminal with the SSH client, but in a Windows machine, we don't have any SSH client by default, and this is going to be a problem for a Linux machine. We use this tool in order to be able to SSH to the EC2 instance. For the Windows machine in the AWS, it's easy because we have the Microsoft Terminal Service Client in the Windows, so you can just type mstsc. It's called Remote Desktop Connection, and if you open this one, you can access any Windows machine. You just need to put the IP address or the name of the machine, and you can get it from the AWS console. So for Windows machine, it's easy. We have the tool, but for the Linux machine, we don't have the tool. That's why I start downloading PuTTY. So after getting the PuTTY, I'm going to close the second tab. So basically, our EC2 instance is running right now, and we have the IP address or name. Doesn't matter which one you want to use. It's the same thing. I'm going to copy the IP address into the clipboard, and because I'm using an Internet Explorer, I have to allow this one. And basically, if I browse this IP address, I should be able to see my website right now because my web server is up and running and it is working. You can see the first default homepage of Apache. So now I want to SSH to this machine. I want to actually go to the Linux machine and start managing it from a Windows machine. So I'm going back to the PuTTY, and I put the IP address here on the home page of the PuTTY. It says hostname or IP address, and the connection type is SSH. Don't forget that whenever we wanted to access to a server or an EC2 instance inside the AWS, we clicked on this connect option here, and it gives us a bunch of instruction, and it says you need the PuTTY or if you are using any terminal, you can use these commands. And we did this before and it worked. So basically, we need to use SSH client, and we need to mention that we want to use this private key in order to connect to this machine. This is the name of the machine, or we can use the IP address, and this is the user account. So this is important. Whenever you're using PuTTY from the Windows, the user that you need to put into the PuTTY for the authentication is EC2-user. And you need to use this key, which is currently on my Windows desktop. So I'm going to close this one, go back to the PuTTY, and then, well, we put the IP address. Now we need to put the username, and also the authentication method should be SSH key, right? So I'm going to, on the left side, we have the connection, and we have the SSH here. So if you click on the SSH, you can see a bunch of options here, but you have to basically click on this plus button here, and then we have an authentication. In the authentication, there is a private key file for authentication. So go ahead and browse this one, and basically you have to go to the location of your file. So there is one issue here, and the issue is that when I'm going to open this file, PuTTY is going to look at anything with the PPK file. So if I by default, actually, I'm not seeing that file. I have to change this one to all users to be able to even see it. So let's try to use this one to see how it works. I just want to show you something. So this is the key, actually. This is the real private key. I'm going to open this one. And now I browse it. I can go back to the session, the IP address here, and I can click on open. So my machine is trying to connect to the EC2 instance on the AWS, and when I'm getting this security alert, it means actually the connection is okay. If you are familiar with the OSI layer, it means everything is fine up until application layer, and this is an authentication. It's right before the application layer, layer 7, and this is saying that the certificate it's not valid, which maybe the name of the certificate doesn't match to our connection name, which is perfectly right because we are using IP address, or the certificate authority is not correct, or the certificate is expired. Doesn't matter. We know that we are accessing to the correct server, so we can ignore this one right now. And as you can see here, it is asking for the login as. So we need to put EC2-user here, right? But before that, see there's an error. It says unable to use key file. That's the problem here. This PEM format, it is not something that PuTTY can read it. We have to actually convert this private certificate to a format that PuTTY can read it. Even if you put the EC2-user here and hit enter, it doesn't work because there is an issue with the certificate format. So what we can do here, actually, I'm going to close this one and close the PuTTY. And we have to go back to our start menu here. And there's something called PuTTY Gen or PuTTY Generator. So you should be able to see it, or you should be able to, if you just type PuTTY, you will see the PuTTY. This is for the SSH access. This is the SSH client, and you can see another one is the PuTTY Gen. Because we installed the MSI, that was an installer from the PuTTY website, we are getting all of these tools. So go ahead and open this PuTTY Gen. And when you're opening this PuTTY Gen, you can actually, there are a bunch of options basically here. You can generate a certificate. It's a pair of the public key and private key, and you can load a certificate here. So go ahead and click on the load, and then you can specify your file, your private key file that you got it from the AWS. This file, and you have to actually change this settings from the PuTTY private key file, which is PPK, to all file to be able to see it. You can see this is the file and the format, and the extension is PEM. So go ahead and select this one and hit open. So we can see that there's an information dialog box here. It says successfully imported foreign key, OpenSSH2 private key, or old PEM format. To use this key with PuTTY, you need to use the save private key command, and it's down here, and you can save it with the PuTTY format. Basically, this PuTTY key generator, it's going to convert that OpenSSH private key format to the one that the PuTTY can read it inside the Windows. So I'm going to select OK, and I'm going to select save private key. And it is asking, it is just showing us with a warning because I haven't put any key pass here. But you can basically save your private key with this security mechanism like a password. And I'm okay, I don't need any password. And on a desktop, I'm going to save my SSH-key file. And now the format is based on the PuTTY private key file, is PPK. I'm going to save this one. And now I can go to the desktop, and actually there should be a file there, and this is the SSH key. It's pretty good right now. Well, we can open the PuTTY back. So I'm going to open the PuTTY again. And now I put the IP address back here. This is the IP address of my EC2 instance. And I go back to the SSH and the authentication location. Now I can basically see this SSH key file because this file, the extension of the file is PPK, and the other file is also there. This PEM is actually the format that we can use inside the Linux machines, but for the Windows and PuTTY, we have to convert it to this format. Okay, so now we have the IP address. You can click on the open. So I can put EC2-user here as the user account, and voila, I am inside the Linux machine, and then you can start do whatever you like inside this EC2 instance. For example, I can run the sudo-su, go to the root user, and I can type yum update -y to install all the security and latest updates and patches inside this Linux machine. So that's it basically. I will just want to show you how you can access a Linux machine from a Windows machine. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next section.